Okay, this video is to announce that I got married. Okay, you know my wife divorced me. She actually asked for a divorce about 2 years ago. She was cheating on me with a truck driver, and then I was forced to move out of the house that I had paid for. And so, anyways, let me give you the backstory with my new wife. She's about 20 years younger than me. She's totally gorgeous, probably like a 9.5 out of 10 in looks, a 10 when she was younger. And she has a real high IQ. She's smart. You know, she reads all my books, listens to all my audio books, gives me a lot of feedback on my videos and everything. But, you know, she screwed up in college. She got pregnant, dropped out to have a baby, didn't go back and finish up college. Her parents are real disappointed in her because she has a very educated family. Her siblings are real educated and stuff. So she was kind of seen from an academic point of view as a screw up in her family. And that bothers her. She's like real hypersensitive about that. She wants to go back to school. You know, she figured out if she could marry me, that would be like an intellectual achievement for her. So, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I didn't finish school, but I just married, you know, Harvard, Stanford doctor, best doctor in the world. So that'll be part of it. I'm also going to tell you, in some of these stories, when I tell you what happened, you're going to think I sound mean. I'm not being mean. A woman's always pushing for the relationship. But man, we don't really think about the relation too much. I'm thinking about my books. I'm thinking about my regular job. I'm thinking about my next YouTube video. Whereas the woman's like pushing, trying to control the relationship, get them to propose, get the marriage, you know. She's always got like an angle. Whereas, you know, I'm like, you know, just make me some dinner, would you? But anyways, that I'm just explaining in advance because some of the things I say to her, you're not going to like it. But I think a man has to talk that way. Otherwise, a woman will just walk all over him and control him. So anyways, here's what happened. We met on a dating app, you know, like immediately after my ex-wife, you know, divorced me or said she wanted a divorce. My first dating app comment to the new wife was something like, "You're kind of fat, but if you eat a vegan diet, your weight will improve." And she actually did respond to me. She said on her first phone call, she like, you know, we exchanged emails and stuff. On her first phone call, she was like, "How do I know your doctor?" You know, she's real suspicious of me. I said, "Just go to Amazon. You can see I've written a bunch of books." And after she saw that, she was willing to date me. Our first date, you know, you can guess where it was. It was a bookstore, of course. You know, it's always a bookstore because you never know if the woman's going to flake out and not show up. So I want something to do in case she doesn't show up, like a look of books. And we're talking, and I was kind of like surprised, you know, that I'm like, gee, this could work. And she says, "What would it be like to date you?" I said, "Well, you're going to have to cook for me. That's a vegan diet." She goes, "Well, I'm not a vegan." I go, "Well, it's a great opportunity to learn." So she said, "Okay," and we did some other stuff, go to church and stuff like that. But she comes to my apartment. She's cooking for me. And my apartment wasn't too well furnished at the time. It was like a little bit of an embarrassment, but she understood. And she started to kind of like cooking the vegan diet. It was fun for her to learn it. We eat dinner and watch movies, stuff like that. But, she was liking it. I could tell, even though she thought I was a nerd at first, she kind of liked the simplicity of my lifestyle and stuff. And she told me she wanted to be my girlfriend. She started doing my laundry, cleaning my apartment. And, I love that. I hate doing all that stuff. And like I said, at first, she thought I was kind of boring. And my old wife used to yell at me all the time, my ex-wife. She says, "What the F is wrong with you? Why the F do you read so much? You know, you're not effing normal. You're effing autistic." And I go, "No, I'm just a smart person. Smart people read a lot. That's where the information is." So anyways, but, my new one, she kind of liked it because she knew what I was going to be. I'm going to be home. Okay, I'm not running around at the racetrack gambling or drinking or something or cheating. Okay, so she knew I was unlikely to ever cheat on her if she was able to bag me as the boyfriend and husband. Let's see what else. And I told her, this is who I am. I'm a scholar. I'm an academic genius. I want to write my books. I am the modern Aristotle of our time. And that's not going to change whether I'm with you or not with you. There's an old joke that surgeons make the best husbands because they're total workaholics. And the wife just gets so they hardly ever around, to bug the woman, and she just gets to spend their money. So it's kind of a good deal for them. And the surgeon is less likely to cheat because he's always working. I started out as an imaging guided surgeon, but Now I mostly do neuroradiology, and then as a hobby, I do this YouTube because it's fun for me and write my books because I think they need to be written. But I make my money in conventional medicine. That's where the money is. Let's see. I went to church with her, boring family events, going to the health club, stuff like that. But I don't really like going places too much unless there's a really good reason. And a lot of times she'd ask me to go do something with her and her family and stuff. And, I said no almost always. I'm real busy. I don't have a lot of free time. I want to write my books. I got like 4 books written in my head, and I got to sit down and physically write them. So I don't, the more I run around, there goes, for the month, I'll have maybe 6 days to crank out a lot of material. And she would get a little pissed off at me and say, it's not normal to go on vacation. She wants vacations. I said, look, I'm not normal. I have no intention to be normal. I am who I am. I'm a scholar. I want to write my books. That's what I'm going to do. I don't give a rat's ass about going on vacations. I think traveling's a waste of time. My ex-wife, I was married for 28 years. I only was on a plane like twice during that whole time. I hate flying. My new wife, she was good. She read all my books, listened to my audiobooks, watched most of my videos, read the comments, and gave me feedback on it, which I like. I was about to write a 1,000-page book on nutrition, like a textbook, and she's like, no, don't do that. Nobody wants to read that. Only nerds like you do. No other person's going to read that. She says, write short books. People only want to read about their own disease. I'm like, okay. So I wrote all those prevent and reverse disease books. I wrote a whole bunch of them last year. It's much easier to write a short book than to write a long book. My girlfriend also, she'd get very offended, like when I make video joking about girlfriends and wives. And I told her, look, get that feminist crap out of your head because it makes a woman worthless to a man, okay? If you want to be by yourself, you ain't going to be with me. If you're going to be giving me shit every time I make a joke, I'm not going to change my personality to make you happy. If you don't like it, you can go. Let's just break up right now. I was real honest with her because I'm not gonna let some woman feminize me. It's like, get the F out of here. The reason I'm successful is because I'm strong and I'm smart and I do what's right. If you feminize a man and it's like you mentally castrate him, it's not a good thing to do. And I said other things to her, maybe a little mean, but I just made myself quite clear. I said, look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. You're totally freaking weak. We go to the health club together. She can't lift any weight. She's pretty worthless in the weight room. I say, on a treadmill, running upstairs. She's totally out of gas. She's slow. She can't do anything physically. Like, oh, you're worthless and weak like a child, okay? Women need a man to take care of them in reality for anything physical. I mean, you got the strength of a 6th grader, like a little boy, and you're like a typical woman. You're physically weak. You're hyper emotional. You take everything personal, and when you don't get your way, you sit and complain and whine like a baby, okay? Men, we deal with stuff, and we're used to not getting our way. We accept it, okay? And I said, this idea of men and women being the same, it's nonsense. I look at CAT scans of the brain, the abdomen, the spine, the legs, chest, abdomen, pelvis, you name it, lower extremity, all the time. And I say, women, they're like these little people with not a lot of muscle and all this fat wrapped around them. They got over 30% fat typically. And I said, you guys are like tiny creatures, okay? And then you got the giant pituitary gland because their pituitary is like more than twice as big as a man. That's the only thing you can see on an MRI. All that stuff about corpus callosum is BS. When you look at a brain MRI, I can see from across the room a premenopausal female, she's got this giant pituitary compared to a man. And that's the only obvious difference in their brains. And that's why they're so emotional too. And you got to look in their eyes every day to check their emotions before you start talking to them. Is she in a good mood or a bad mood? Does she want to talk to me or not talk to me? Okay, is she mad? With a guy, he's the same every day. He's got this little tiny pituitary. Nothing's happening. And let's see what else. I said, female strength, your strength comes from manipulating men from getting me to do stuff for you, okay? And then I said, you guys are lucky we can't just buy children at a pet shop because then we wouldn't need you. And if they program those AI robots to cook and clean, you guys are going to, then you complaining females, you're going to be out in the street. Anyways, after we were only dating a couple months, her car broke down, had a lot of problems. I paid to get it towed and fixed. It cost a lot of money. And she loved that, It's like, oh gosh, you don't have to pay for something. Isn't that nice? So, most of the time she's really good to me. And believe me, she pushed the relationship. Because you're going to hear all this and you think, why would she want to be? Oh, believe me, she wants to be with me a lot. Okay. And so she was really good most of the time. but she would get on her period and she would become like this crazy, nagging, whining, bitch. And she said to me one time, "You're taking advantage of me for sex, cooking and cleaning." And I told her, "Look, you don't have to do anything. There's the door. You can go if you want. I'll be okay without you." I said, "I can cook. I can clean. I can do the laundry. You can't do my job. You can't be a doctor." Okay? She sort of went in the other room, cried a little bit, and then she said, "Okay, I'm sorry." And she said, "I want to be your wife." She said, "I'm going to prove to you I'll be a good wife." Okay? And I said, "Yeah, you got a long way to go. I'm not going to marry some nagging pain in the ass who freaks out and goes crazy every time she's on her period." But anyways, after that, she was super good, for many, many months, doing everything she could to help me and being, just a pleasure to me. I'm at work most of the time. It's busy and I'm tired when I come home. And I like seeing her and everything. Whenever you hear a noise in the background of me making the videos, that's her cooking and stuff. It's kind of a big production because I eat the OMAD diet, 1 meal a day diet. So let's see. On the other hand, though, having a woman for a man, it's a big expense. Women always say, "Oh, I'm not expensive." I say, all women are expensive. They go, "Nah, Walt, not all women are like that." Yeah, right. Any guy knows when you're with a woman, all of a sudden she's got some minor crisis. She needs money. That's just how they are, okay? Man, we don't need almost anything. I'm happy if I'm just alone by myself in a room with a book, okay? A woman's always creating situations. Oh, she needs new furniture. She needs this. She's always needing something. If it wasn't for my ex-wife, I'd be a retired multimillionaire. So, if we didn't like women so much, we'd be financially a lot better off. The old joke, why do men have jobs and women have Virginia? So they'll talk to each other, okay? We like them, like I said, a lot more than they like us. I'm sort of happy, just being together with her when we're together. And she'd been trying to get me to marry her for a long time, sort of pressuring me, making all these little faces, pouting faces and stuff. And, I'm tired. And, she got me at a weak moment and I agreed to marry her. So I got married to her. I'm married to her now. We've been actually married for months. Hopefully things will work out. I'd like to just stay with this one the rest of my life. I don't like having to bother with all this dating stuff. I'm not going to show you a picture of her. She's kind of private about that. And what I've also seen with women is when you're with them in the kitchen, they're like a wildcat, bossing, nagging, telling you you're a lazy jerk and so does more for her friend. Her friend's husband does this and that. But then when you're out with them in public, they're kind of all shut up, whereas I'm the opposite. It's like, put me in front of a microphone, put me on stage, I'm ready to go, give a lecture, talk. In the house, I don't want to talk. I just want the house kind of peaceful and quiet other than making my YouTube video. So that's kind of how it is. And I've seen that too with the women I went to med school with. They were real shy and weren't eager to give presentations. Not a single one of them. They don't like it. I don't know what it is about women, but the vast majority of them don't like giving a presentation lecture. They're not that confident. Whereas me, I'm super confident. So I want it. I feel like I'm under-recognized. I want to get up and speak and stuff. But anyways, that's how I got married. Hopefully it's going to work out. That's the story.